please don't make me read the next books. I want to be done. So it is now, it's almost 1 o'clock on Friday, July 17th, and I just got home from work. And while I was at work, I finished the last 30 pages of Destroy Me, which is the novella at the end of my copy of Shatter Me, with, written from Warner's point of view. And I started filming a clip last night talking about my thoughts on Shatter Me and Destroy Me, but I kind of cut myself off, one, because I was really upset about it. I was really heated. And two, because I had those 30 pages left, and so I wanted to give the book a fair chance to change my mind or get better in those last 30 pages. So I decided to wait until I had finished to actually talk to you guys about it. And I finished and I'm still mad about it. Okay. I don't even know how to organize my thoughts about this because it's a lot. So I mean, okay, let's just start off with my thoughts about Shatter Me itself, the first book. So I went into it knowing that it was not going to be a new favorite book of mine. I knew that it had a lot of romance themes in it, which is not my genre. And I knew that it came out in 2011, so I expected it to have some problematic aspects of it. Like, it's just of its time, you know? So I expected that. I went in fully knowing that. But still, this book, guys, it's so problematic. I could not have prepared myself for it. And hi, you gonna sit? Okay, hi guys. Hi. Oh no. Aside from the problematic aspects of it, which I will get to in a minute, it's just not a well-written book. I had seen a lot of reviews talking about how beautiful the prose is in this book, and that it's like uniquely written and it's poetic and just beautiful writing. And nothing about the writing worked for me in this. I saw all of the times when it was trying to be poetic and like artsy and different, but it just all felt so overdone to me. Like it was just trying really, really hard, and it all felt so like fake deep. Like none of it felt like it had real emotion behind it. It was just all so surface level and not good. And like, I don't know, I like the device of using like repetition, repeating certain words or certain lines just to put emphasis on it, but this book does it so much. Like all the time in this book there's like a repeat of a word 3 times, like multiple times on a page there will be repetition, and it just drove me crazy. Okay. Hi. So all of the like metaphors and like artsy things that I think are what people were calling poetic just didn't work for me, because most of them just straight up didn't make sense. Like Okay, I wrote down a few here because it's just ridiculous. So, okay. So this one says, so she's talking about, I think she's crying. I think Juliet is crying, and she is calling her tears rose petals, okay? So she says, I catch the rose petals as they fall from my cheeks, as they float around the frame of my body, as they cover me in something that feels like the absence of courage. What? What? Okay. Hi. Another good one. He says it with a small smile, the size of Jupiter. Small smile? Jupiter, like the largest planet in our solar system? A small smile? Okay, if you say so. I mean, whatever. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And another thing, more than the repetition, what drove me crazy was there were so many times where she tried to, I don't know, she tried to use like exaggeration and metaphors and stuff in relation to bodies. Like, okay, I don't think that made sense, but like, they're gross. She said, my mouth is sitting on my kneecaps. Like, your jaw dropped. Your mouth is sitting on your kneecaps. Like, I just think that's so strange. I don't like it. I blush through my bones. They're just weird. I don't like it. Okay, a good one. My spine is conducting enough electricity to power a city. It's weird. It's very strange. So yeah, that is, the writing didn't work for me. Like, all of those things just, I did not like. It all just felt so fake to me. But even more, like, putting aside the bad writing, there are so many problematic things in this book that, like, I don't know, I have so many issues with this book, and I've heard so many people talk about the romance in here and like how much they love Warner. Like, everything I've ever seen about this book, everybody's in love with Warner, and he is an abusive, obsessive, manipulative person throughout the entire book. And like, he doesn't, I don't even know how to start talking about this. Okay, like, we only see Warner and Juliet have like a couple of conversations in which Warner spends the whole thing ordering her around and insulting her. Like, they never have a real conversation. And yet, Warner declares his love for her on multiple occasions. But in between those occasions, he is doing things like confining her to her room and like picking fights with her because he just enjoys riling her up. And he is, in an attempt to like unlock her power or whatever, he puts her in a room and makes her torture a child, knowing that she has this trauma in her mind already because she accidentally killed a child. So he knowingly puts her in a position to relive her past trauma and then turns around and says that he loves her. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just, it's so problematic and so bad. And I flagged so many things that are just horrible. Like, okay. And never once is it returned. Like, Juliet never gives him any reason to believe that she has feelings for him, or that his feelings are returned in any way. And yet he pushes himself on her. Like, he throws her against a wall and starts trying to make out with her without any signals from her, without getting consent from her. And then he's surprised when she pulls out a gun and shoots him. Like, it's not cute. Ugh. Okay. Okay. This whole page is awful. Okay, this is Warner and Juliet talking. "We can really be together," he says to me, undeterred by my silence. He pulls me close, too close. I'm frozen, stunned in grief, in disbelief. Okay, already not great. His hands reach for my face, his lips for mine. My brain is on fire, ready to explode from the impossibility of this moment. I feel like I'm watching it happen, detached from my own body, incapable of intervening. More than anything else, I'm shocked by his gentle hands, his earnest eyes. "I want you to choose me," he says. "I want you to choose to be with me. I want you to want this." "You're insane," I choke. "You're psychotic. You're only afraid of what you're capable of." His voice is soft, easy, slow, deceptively persuasive. I've never realized before just how attractive his voice is. Okay, so clearly Juliet is not returning this feeling that Warner has for her. Like, she is telling him to stop. She says, "You're insane, you're psychotic." She says that he's deceptively persuasive. And then in the next sentence, she says that his voice is attractive. And throughout the whole book, she's been talking about how attractive he is. And it's so awful, because things like that are teaching young girls who are reading these books, because they're YA books, teaching young girls that it's okay and it's attractive for a man to manipulate and abuse you and not listen to you when you tell them to stop, that it's romantic, and it's so harmful. And that's not even the worst of it. "Admit it," he says. "We're perfect for each other. You want the power. You love the feel of a weapon in your hand. You're attracted to me." I try to swing my fists, but he catches my arms, pins them to my sides, presses me up against the wall. He's so much stronger than he looks. "Don't lie to yourself, Juliet. You're going to come back to me whether you like it or not. But you can choose to want it. You can choose to enjoy it." That's disgusting. So now he's holding her in place and saying that even though she doesn't want it right now, she will. And so, like, it's fine what he's doing, because she's gonna want it eventually. It's gross. "I will never," I breathe broken. "You're sick. You're a sick, twisted monster." "That's not the right answer," he says. And she says, "It's the only answer you'll ever get from me." His lips come too close. "But I love you." It's awful. And she says, "No, you don't love me." And his eyes close. He leans his forehead against mine. "You have no idea what you do to me." So basically, that's saying that, like, a girl being assaulted and resisting that assault is attractive. "I hate you," she says. And then he says, "God, I'd love to just take a bite out of you." It's horrible. It's so, like, he doesn't listen to her at all. And it's just... Okay, so, like, anytime Warner and Juliet interact together, it's a situation like that, where he is forcing her into a situation that she does not want to be in. And she says, "I don't like this. I don't want to be here. I don't want this." But then she turns around and says something about how attractive he is, or, like, how disarming he is, and the author is like weaving in these little tidbits, presumably so that a relationship can develop between these two characters. And it's just so disgusting to me. Like, it's just gross. I hate it. And okay, so that part that I just read for you is from close to the end of Shatter Me. And so I finished reading it and I was so mad. I'm so mad. And so I went on Goodreads and I was reading reviews, and there are so many 5-star reviews, and I was just getting more and more mad. And then I turned the page and I saw that the novella was included in my copy of the book. So I was like, okay, I'll read this, I guess. And I looked at reviews on Goodreads, and people were saying how great Destroy Me is. Like, it has better reviews than Shatter Me. And people were saying that it changed their mind about Warner, and like, it's so great. And I read it. It's only like 110 pages long, and it's clearly an attempt to lay the groundwork for a redemption arc for Warner for the next few books. Like, that's what it is. She's trying to create sympathy for Warner so that she can turn him into a love interest. And it's gross. So, okay. There's a few things about it that really, really didn't work for me. So, just aside from all of the nasty stuff I just read to you, in the novella, we get more of Warner's backstory. And we learn that, his father was abusive, and I think his mother died, and he had like a horrible childhood. He was forced into the army, and he was put in this position where he has to basically just do everything his father says, and his father is continuously abusive. Even like present day in the novella, we see his father abusing him. And so it's trying to make you feel sympathy for him. But it doesn't work, and I'll tell you why. Because, okay, so in the novella, Warner finds Juliet's diary, and he reads it. And even as he's like picking it up, he's like, oh, I know it's wrong to read this, but I just need to have something of Juliet's in my life. So even though it's an invasion of privacy, there's something in me that just makes me do it. And so he reads her diary. And as he's reading the diary, he realizes that they had similar childhoods. Like, she was abused by her parents. She was locked away. So they have similar backstories where they were both abused. And you are supposed to have sympathy for both of them. But the thing is, Juliet had this horrible childhood and then grew up into a good person. We get stories from Adam in Shatter Me talking about how kind Juliet is despite everything that happened to her. She gave kids her food when they didn't have lunch at school, and she helped kids cheat off her test when they didn't know the answers. And so little things like that he noticed that she did, because despite her childhood, despite all of the abuse she suffered, she always did her best to lessen the pain of those around her. Even though her touch, if she touches people, she causes pain. And she hates that, and she does everything she can to not cause others pain. And she does everything she can to show kindness to people. And so Warner had a similar childhood, which is supposed to make you feel sorry for him, and yet he turned into this horrible, obsessive, manipulative, abusive person. And so there's no sympathy, because you see Juliet, who had the same background and turned into a good person. And then you see Warner, who had this horrible upbringing and let it turn him into a horrible person. So I have no sympathy for him, because we see what he could have been. He could have grown up and been a good person despite all of it, just like Juliet. But instead, he let it turn him into another horrible person and just continue this cycle that he grew up in. And it makes me so mad. So it undermines the whole point of the novella, because this juxtaposition just completely undoes all of the work that the author is trying to do. And it just blows my mind. And like, also, we learn in the novella that, so the reason we are given in Shatter Me, the motivation we have of Warner's for finding Juliet, is that he wants to use her power as a weapon to torture people. Like, that's why he pulled her out of the asylum. That's what he wants her to do for him. And then in Destroy Me, we learn that that's a lie. That's not true. He never wanted that. He didn't care about that. He just said that to get his father off his back so that he could hunt down this girl. And okay, so it says, she was to be our weapon and nothing more, just an innovative instrument of torture, a detail I cared very little about. My research had led me to her files by pure accident, coincidence. I did not seek her out in search of a weapon. I never had. Far before I had ever seen her on film, and far, far before I ever spoke a word to her, I had been researching something else, for something else. My motives were my own. Utilizing her as a weapon was a story I fed to my father. I needed an excuse to have access to her, to gain the necessary clearance to study her files. It was a charade I was forced to maintain in front of my soldiers and the hundreds of cameras that monitor my existence. Okay, so he says that the reason he sent Adam into the asylum to talk to her was because he wanted to see her talk and see if she was actually insane. But watching her talk to someone else made me crazy. I was jealous. Ridiculous. I wanted her to know me. I wanted her to talk to me. And I felt it then, this strange, inexplicable sense that she might be the only person in the world I could really care about. So, he spent months poring over this stranger's medical records and history, and he spent months watching her on security cameras just because he wanted to, because he felt some strange one-sided connection to her. She didn't know that he was doing this. She didn't know she was being watched. And then he sent in Adam into the room with her, and she was told that he was another prisoner. But obviously he wasn't. He was working for Warner, and Warner only wanted to see how she would deal with somebody. Like, he didn't actually care about using... His whole motivation is just moot then. Like, the only reason he did any of this was because he is obsessed with her for no reason. And everything he does has been a manipulation of her in an attempt to force a relationship between them. Like, there's no other reason for anything that happened in this book. That's all this book is, which is gross. And like I said, the whole book, she is saying, no, I don't like this. I don't like you. I don't want this. I want to go away. I want to leave. And he keeps her there. And he forces her to torture children. And he watches her all the time. And he reads her diary. All because he has a twisted version of her in his head that he has decided loves him and that he loves. Like, he never actually has a good conversation with the real Juliet. He just has built all of this up in his head, and then he's surprised when she shoots him for assaulting her. Like, it's so gross. And the thing So, I don't know. I hate it here. I hate it. I think the thing that makes all of this so horrible is this book was written by a fully grown adult. I looked it up. She was 23 when this book came out, so she was an adult. And it was written by an adult woman. It was screened presumably by agents and editors and publishers. So it was seen and handled by a ton of adults who read all of the problematic things in here, who saw it and thought that it was something that should be marketed to children. That impressionable young girls read this and thought that Warner was a good love interest, thought that it was a good relationship. And that is because a group of fully grown adults told them that this is okay. And it's so gross, and it makes me so mad. And I've been posting pictures of problematic passages from here as I've been reading it on my Instagram, and so many people have responded and messaged me saying, oh my gosh, I read this when I was 13 and I didn't pick up on any of this. I thought it was great. I loved Warner. I loved their relationship and their dynamic, and they just had no idea that it was a problem because it's presented in a way that makes it seem like it's not a problem because they're setting up this redemption arc for him. And so it just tells young girls that it's okay if a guy hurts them or yells at them or tries to control them, that it's romantic and that it's healthy and that it's good. And that is a message perpetuated by an adult woman. And it makes me so mad. I'm so mad, and I don't usually get heated over books like this, but it's just, the whole time I was reading it, I would read these, like, not even the really problematic parts, just the, like, cringy moments when they were, like, Adam and Juliet were making out or something, like they were running for their lives, but they took, like, a time out to make out with each other and then kept going, and it's just so cringy. And throughout the whole book, I just sat there and I was thinking, an adult woman sat down and typed this out and thought it was good. Like, an adult wrote this. Like, it just blows my mind that this is so popular. I can't believe that this is what this book is. So yeah, that is... I've been filming for half an hour. Yeah, those are my thoughts about Shatter Me. And I don't know, guys. I don't understand why this is so beloved. I think if people reread it now, they would have problems with it. But then, like, the books are still coming out. One came out just a few months ago, and people are still reading and enjoying it. So I don't know if it gets better. I don't know if it gets better in the more recent ones, but I mean, I don't have much faith that it will, but I'm gonna keep reading them because I bought all of them. I own the first 5 books. I don't have the one that just came out, but I have all the others. And I bought them because I saw people on booktube talking about how great it was and how much they loved it, and I saw only good reviews for it, and so I bought it. And I'm mad at myself for buying the whole series when I had, like, I'm trying now to only buy the first book in a series and read that before I decide if I need to buy the other ones. But instead of just jumping into buying a whole series and then hating the first book and not wanting to continue. But I feel like I have to read them now because I own them. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading the series. I don't have faith that it's gonna get better. But this is, again, another illustration of the ways watching booktube has warped my reading habits and my book buying habits. Because like last year, I was watching a ton of booktube and I heard people talking about all of these books that they loved, and so I went out and bought them all. Even though I knew that I have wildly different reading tastes from these people. But I don't know, I just bought the books that I saw them talking about, knowing that I probably wouldn't like them. And so now I've ended up with shelves full of books that are like YA, fantasy, romance. And I don't like any of those things. I just wish there was more diversity on booktube of the kinds of books people are reading. I've started to find classics readers now, but when I first started watching, all I saw was people reading YA fantasy and romance books, and I don't know. It's not an issue with booktube. It's an issue with me for rushing into all of these books without really thinking about it. But yeah, reading this book has really just reinforced my desire to get away from these types of books and get back to things that I actually enjoy. Because despite this book being really kind of fun to hate read, like I flew through this book just because I was mad and I was screaming the whole time. But like I didn't like it. And so this book just reinforces my need to get back to books that I actually enjoy, that I can scream about in good ways for you guys, with you guys. And so yeah, I don't know. I read Shatter Me, I guess. I hate Warner, and I hate it here. I don't know. Who do I talk to about ending my free trial of life? Like, I just want to be done after this. Take me out. I'm done. I've had enough. Please, don't make me read the next books. I want to be done. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on Shatter Me. I hope that was at least semi-coherent and made sense, and I don't know, I didn't script this, I just kind of sat down and started yelling, so I'm not sure how much of that made sense. But let me know if you've read these books, if you read them when you were a kid, and how you felt about them, or if you've read them recently. I want to understand. Yeah, so let me know what you think. I will be reading the next book soon, so expect another video. Yeah, I'm gonna go read something better now. Bye!
I've been dreaming all night, bringing me some inspiration. Never meant to love no one, but baby, I saw you for a second and I'm happy that you came my way. Don't wanna waste no time without you ever brightening up my days. Never meant to fall so hard.